The day that I sit down to do it, whatever is going on with me at the time will find its way into the piece. It has to, or the piece isn't worth making.
You watch a movie, now it's over, you come back home, you eat hopefully, and then you go to bed. As you lay on your bed, you look up at the ceiling, suddenly you are reminded of that girl child from the movie. And she was in a red dress. You close your eyes and you fall asleep. Later in the night, you wake up wondering that the movie that you just watched was in black and white.
We're cooking quinoa. We're gonna start over on the counter and I'll talk you through it.
Then why do you remember only the girl child being in a red dress? Was she really in a red dress? Or was she a pivot of the story from the screen to your practical life?
It's a dangerous thing to confuse children with angels.
Did you watch the movie thinking that you would go through the movie and come back to your life with the same conceptions and sensibilities? But now you are seeing the movie go through you and you have started to question the most basic and physical faculties being your conception of reality.
I gave the man the coin. He gave me a bottle of, I don't know if I got violet sugar water or what. I got this bottle, and in addition, I got a piece of paper money.
Now, was the girl child really in a red dress, or you are distinguishing her from the story on the basis of your subjective conception of reality with which you went to watch the movie?
If I was writing The Guns of the Navarone, all right, and then right at the beginning of writing it or in the middle of writing it, I break up with my girlfriend who I'm like madly in love with, and then my heart is shattered, all right, that's got to work into it. Now, the story is still about a bunch of commandos going to blow up a couple of cannons, all right, but that pain that I'm feeling has got to find its way into this story, or else what am I doing?
Well, you go once again to watch the same movie with one fact in your mind, that the girl child among the extras of the movie is supposed to represent a change in the narrative of the story. Although she eventually meets her fate, that is death, like every other character in the movie, but she was different because the protagonist of the movie, who until now was looking to make profit of the tragedy, finally sees something which leads every moral or the lack of it in a condition of chaos. Until this point, he thought that getting the better of situation in which the Jews are in the movie was a valid enough justification to shut away his moral conception of the world. But now his greed isn't big enough of a justification for the death of that girl child, along with many like her. This complexity of flexible sensibilities is comparable to Titanic. Here I am talking about the ship Titanic. I'll eventually talk about the movie Titanic as well. But for now, it's the ship. It is supposed to be an experience of leisure, which will take you from point A to point B. But as soon as it hits the iceberg, it is back to being a boat with the tendency of drowning. The people on board didn't realize the fact of it being a boat until it actually met with the iceberg. Until then, the experience of Titanic was more similar to a 5-star hotel in Paris than to a boat which any other fisherman uses. But as soon as the iceberg surprises the front end of the moving leisure, it suddenly starts to resemble the wooden boat rather than that 5-star hotel on dockyard.
I'm sick and I'm in love. You seem the sort of person who confuses the two.
So, in this case, the girl child in red dress was the iceberg in the sea of ignorant morality of your protagonist and yours. As soon as it hits you, you, through the eyes of the protagonist, starts to question every moral fact associated with the narrative of the story till this point.
And the book says we may be through with the past, but the past is not through with us.
You must be asking now, is this video about movies? Well, yes or no. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Maan&etc and I am an aspiring filmmaker. And I think filmmaking is the worst form of art there is, but simultaneously the best mode of expression of any narrative that needs any other art form to express or represent itself. Cinema is not as precise or as delicate or as profound as any other art form, say music, poetry, painting, dance. Because the arts are derived from the microscopic precision of details. Say a painter can look at the plain wall and find 1,000 intricacies to paint on his canvas, which will present a perspective that you, me, and anybody else couldn't have realized otherwise. Or a musician can hear the sounds in the nature that we think are hollow noises, and with those noises, he can produce symphony that will lead you in a situation of trance. But these art forms by themselves can't represent anything other than abstract experiences, which are most necessary in life, but they can't have you formulate a sense of your individuality or where you stand in this flux called society. The society with its thousand anomalies, shortcomings, and demands from you. For that, you have to experience a lot, which on its own is not practically possible to experience this much or even to experience enough. So we use the experience of others to compensate for our lack of experiences in the form of stories.
But Jack had met this girl on the train, and I don't know what nationality she was, but Jack and this girl, they became, close friends. And in talking to her, and Jack introduced me to her. In talking to her, it turns out she'd never had a Coca-Cola in her life.
But even when you use stories, it is lacking in the sense that you have not lived through this particular story. So this can't have enough effect on you to shape your morality according to the story. It feels like a simulation of superficial encounters of someone who wrote the particular story.
But with the greats, whether it's Stanley Kubrick or Terrence Malick or Hitchcock, what you're seeing is an inseparable, a vital relationship between the image and the story it's telling.
So what you do to compensate for the superficiality of the story, you present it with other art forms like music, painting, or in this case the cinematography, poetry and performance, which results in a simulation of an experience which you might have never lived otherwise. This particular art form, the art form of cinema, has led you to this particular experience, but it has the power to shape your outlook like you actually lived through that situation. So when you saw the iceberg coming towards Titanic, you are actually feeling the reality of that leisure cruise falling apart, just like Jack or Rose did, because you have been living on the simulation of that cruise with the help of individual art forms like music, cinematography, props, costumes, colors and performance, intended to represent the individual experience like intimacy, danger, luxury or raw madness.
Nature only wants to please itself.
Bless, oh Lord, this voodoo.
Get others to please it too.
So when you suddenly remember the point in the movie Schindler's List where there is a girl child in the great chaos of horror and torment, the director used her as a individual representation to divert the focus of the protagonist from his individual goal, which was greed, to the collective experience of whole Germany, which actually was the horror, the torment of the girl's individual representation or individual experience.
And no, it is not dangerous to confuse children with angels.
You've got two choices. Either being is, or being is not. And since being is not the same as becoming, becoming is the same, or change is the same as not being. Well now, how can you have change if there is no being change? And if those are your options, being or not being, well, pretty obvious being, isn't it? Therefore, from logical proof, you can say that all change is an illusion. I'm not really walking around here. It just looks that way.